Hello, my name is Iris. I'm Jewish and I am a member of the Bristol and West Progressive Jewish congregation. Although I live on the outskirts of Bath, the nearest synagogue for me to go to is located in Bristol. The building of the Progressive Synagogue in Bristol is a very modest building, yet all the members and visitors who have come to the synagogue over the years have always said what a warm and welcoming atmosphere there is in the synagogue. Now, synagogue in Hebrew, Beit Knesset, by definition means house of gathering or house of assembly. Yet, Jews can pray anywhere they are. As a matter of fact, over the pandemic, the Progressive Synagogue has been closed, yet the congregation has kept very active with services and other events all online. Now, in a moment, I'm going to be showing you a few objects or artifacts inside of the synagogue, but I would like to point out that the focus of Judaism is actually on our actions rather than on our belief in God. And towards the end of the video, I will be sharing with you a story that highlights this fact.
So the Torah. If I were to have a Torah at home, it would be a printed Torah book. You can see that it says the Torah here. But in the synagogue, besides of the printed Torah books, we also have the Torah Scroll. And the Torah Scroll is kept in a very safe place until when we need to use it. If you would have come here any other time of year, these curtains would have been blue. It's only because now we are in this time of year when we celebrate the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, that we have white curtains. Now, once we open the curtains, what can you see at this point? You can see the ark. Like if you had a very precious jewel, you would keep it in a jewelry box. And because the Torah scroll is very precious for the Jewish people, it is kept in the ark, in this cupboard until when we need to use it. Besides of the ark, what you can also see is that we have a lamp on top. And some people refer to this as the eternal light, or everlasting light, the Ner Tamid. Actually, we also have in our synagogue a second Ner Tamid, which is this one. And in most synagogues, this is the kind of Ner Tamid which you would find dangling from the ceiling. In our congregation, there is a very interesting discussion going on whether this is a proper Ner Tamid, everlasting light, or not. Because the idea is that the everlasting light should be visible at all times. And when we close the curtains, this one is not visible. Now, in most synagogues, you have one like this hanging from the ceiling. However, the person who designed the ark for our synagogue chose to put a lamp on top of it. So we are in a very unusual position of having two Ner Tamids, two everlasting lights. But usually you would find only one. We can talk separately about the symbolism of this. You can start thinking about it. Now, if I open the doors of the ark, you can see that there is some writing. Can you think what this might represent? I can give you a hint. Count how many lines of writing you can see. So you have 5 on this side, and you have another 5 of this side. Do you know what there are 10 of, well known in the Torah? They are the 10 Commandments. So here we don't actually have the whole of the 10 Commandments written. It's just the first 2 words from each one of the commandments. And it is quite common to see somewhere on the ark a reference to the Ten Commandments. In the case of our synagogue, the commandments are written on the inside of the doors of the ark. In some other synagogues, you might find that they have, instead of the lamp here, the stone tablets with the Ten Commandments, which in a way look similar to what you see here, the stone tablets with the Ten Commandments written on them. In other synagogues, it might be that the handles of the doors of the ark have the Ten Commandments on them. Now, if I open these compartments, you will see that in our synagogue, we have 2 Torah scrolls. Some bigger synagogues might have even more than 2 Torah scrolls. Now, I will take one out so you can see it more clearly and all the decorations on it. Usually, during services, we give people the honor of helping us to undress the Torah scroll so that we can read from it. And when I have school visits here in the synagogue, I ask for volunteers to help me to do that. But today I'm going to do it all by myself. So first of all, if you look here, if I take this out, what does it remind you of? What does it look like? It looks a little bit like a crown, doesn't it? So why do you think the Torah scroll would have a crown on it? Well, just like the queen has a crown to show that she is special for the country, the Torah scroll has a crown to show that it is special for the Jewish people. And then we put it here. The next item is a pointer. And if you look closely at the tip of the pointer, you can see a pointing finger, a pointing hand. In Hebrew, this pointer is called a yad. And yad means hand. So it's kind of like an extension to my own hand. So I have a finger pointing, but rather than using my own hand, I use this pointer. Now, start thinking of why. Why do we use a pointer when we read from a Torah scroll rather than using our own finger? And later on we can discuss that. Another item is this. We can think of it as a shield, so it is protecting the Torah scroll. On it, you can see some of the items that we've spoken about. There is a crown, just like we saw a crown on top of the Torah scroll. There are lions, and the lions are strong animals, the king of the jungle, so they are kind of like protecting the Torah scroll, which is so precious for the Jewish people. And in the center, you can see again the stone tablets with the Ten Commandments. A reference or a reminder that in the Torah we have all these rules, all these commandments, and 10 of them are the most well-known. Some people, instead of calling this a shield, they call it a breastplate, and they say that it reminds them of the priests that used to look after the temple in Jerusalem. They used to have a special robe and a breastplate on them. I will put that here now. And then I will remove the cloth. Now, as much as possible, we try not to touch the parchment on which the writing is. So we hold from the wooden stems and we put the Torah scroll down. We can open it up. So that we can read from the Torah scroll. The contraption on which we put the Torah scroll to read from it, we refer to it as the bima. Bima means stage. In bigger synagogues, they have an elevated stage, like in the theater, so that the audience, the congregation, can see better the person reading from the Torah scroll and the Torah itself. We don't have an elevated stage, but we have something very interesting, which is this contraption that people can see from the other side of it, the actual writing. And if I lift it, you can see even from the back a little bit of the writing. So in order to read from the Torah scroll, we use the pointer, the yad, and we go along. So the Torah scroll is written in very neat columns. So we read like this, from right to left in Hebrew, and we can talk about that separately as well. When we get to the bottom of one column, we go to the next column. Now, when we finish reading, we just close it back to the same location. We don't roll it back to the beginning. In normal books, you have page numbers, and you can just open the book on that page. But with the Torah scroll, it's different. It's all written in continuous. So the Torah is separated into portions, and they are like chapters, and there are enough portions to last us for all the Saturdays, for all the Shabbatot throughout the year. And each Shabbat, we read one portion. So once I close it, the people that are going to use it for the following Shabbat, they will know that the portion that they need to read comes right after. So they can unwind a little bit from one side and tighten it from the other side. And that's how we reach the next section.
The Torah, which is the most special or sacred book for the Jewish people, is actually the very beginning of the Old Testament. The Old Testament is also the very beginning of the Christian Bible. So you can already see the commonality between Judaism and Christianity. Many of the stories that are written in the Torah also feature in the Quran, which is the sacred book that the Muslim people follow. So you can see that there is actually much in common to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the three religions which are often referred to as the three Abrahamic religions. I would like to tell you just a little story before we finish. And this story happened about 2,000 years ago, when a person who was not Jewish went to a rabbi. A rabbi is a Jewish spiritual leader who is expected to know anything about the Jewish religion. So this not Jewish person went to Rabbi Shammai and asked him, Rabbi Shammai, could you teach me the whole of the Torah while I stand on one foot? And Rabbi Shammai got very upset and impatient and said, go away, can't you see that I'm busy? You're just wasting my time. But the non-Jewish person was very perseverant. So he went to a second rabbi. He went to Rabbi Hillel, and he asked Rabbi Hillel the same question. Rabbi Hillel, could you teach me the whole of the Torah while I stand on one foot? And Rabbi Hillel just thought about it for a moment. And then he said, okay, all you need to know is not to do to others what you don't want done to you. That is the whole of the Torah. The rest of it are just explanations. You can go home and read those explanations by yourself. Now, I'm sure that you have heard this story before, or this expression, not the story, but this expression before, that we should not do to others what we don't want done to us. In other words, that we should treat others the way we want to be treated. This is an expression that's very common in many religions, in many cultures, in many backgrounds, and many languages. And I think that if this is all that you remember from today, this moral from the story, that we should all treat each other with respect, that is already a great benefit. So I wish you a nice day. Goodbye.